we have our unit exam coming up on Wednesday. Okay, you already have the review package. I posted it earlier this week. I believe it was Monday. Okay, that I posted that. So make sure you're going through that, doing the activities suggested in there. Okay, and obviously using the practice test at some point over the weekend to see kind of what things you need to continue working on. My other suggestions would be obviously reading through your notes. The lessons where the notes are particularly important are the lesson on solubility and the polar nature of water. Okay, that one for sure. The notes are really important. Okay, because that's kind of just a recall type of thing, and being able to explain what it means to be a polar molecule and how that affects things, the behavior of it, stuff like that is basically all recall. So you need to make sure you're very familiar with that. Other lessons where reading the notes over would be important. Your reaction types. Okay, a lesson on reaction types so that you know them and are familiar with their patterns. And then history and structure of the atom, the first one. Okay, the other stuff is mostly skill-based. Okay, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Maybe properties of compounds a little bit. So if I give you a question like you have in front of you an unknown sample with the following properties, it would be A, copper 2 sulfate, B, cobalt 2 chloride, or whatever. You'd be able to figure out what it is. Okay, stuff like that. Okay, so reading over your notes is sort of important. Maybe just those few things would be really worth going over. The thing that's most important for chemistry is practicing your skills, and you know what skills I'm going to test. Okay, I'm going to test your reaction skills. Right? There's going to be balancing. There's going to be writing reactions, predicting reactions, doing mole equation calculations. Those are the skills you have to demonstrate to me. Okay, so those are things you would definitely want to practice. Being able to draw an atom would be another one. Okay, with the proper number of particles in the right places, with the right model being shown, that kind of stuff. Those are all the skills that you have to demonstrate to me. And chemistry is very much skill-based. So you want to practice those skills more than you want to just read through your notes. Okay, so make sure you kind of weight your studying activities appropriately. Okay. All right, stuff in this unit. Okay, first thing we talked about was structure/history of the atom. Okay, and in that lesson, all right, we talked about a few important people. Right, now I'm not going to have 10 multiple choice questions on, who discovered this and who discovered that, but there are a couple of people who are pretty important. Okay, probably the most important person would be whom? Dalton. He's the guy that came up with the whole thing. Okay, should we know Dalton? Yes. Should we know his atomic theory? Yes. Okay, am I going to ask you to write out all 4 points of the atomic theory on the test? No. Right? Am I going to expect you to know all 4? Yes, probably a multiple choice item. Okay, like which of the following is not part of Dalton's atomic theory? Something along those lines. You need to know the points of his atomic theory for sure. Who would be the next most important person? Rutherford. Discovered and proved the existence of the nucleus. That's the basis of all modern, chemistry and physics, the nuclear model of the atom. Okay, so currently accepted model. Got to know that. It's which model? Electron cloud, de Broglie I would also accept. Okay, be able to draw me a picture of an atom. Okay, correct number of protons, correct number of neutrons, correct number of electrons. Okay, quick review. Number of protons is the atomic number, as is the number of electrons. Okay, neutrons is calculated by taking atomic mass and subtracting the atomic number. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so yeah, that's the big thing there, is just being able to do those things. Draw me a picture of a model, know those important people, okay? Just have a quick read over it, okay? Anything else would be pretty basic from that lesson. Okay, and then naming/writing proper chemical formulae for compounds, both ionic and molecular. There are a few multiple choice questions that are just, what would the proper formula for copper 2 sulfate be? A, B, C, or D, okay? Or what is the proper name of CaCl2, right? Yes, there's a few multiple choice questions that just test your naming skills and writing formula skills, just a few. Okay? Mostly, that's important for what? If you can't write names and formulas, can you do the reaction stuff? Will you get the mole equation calculations right? Okay, that's why that's important. That is probably your most fundamental skill for this unit. Being able to write the formulas correctly, being able to write the names correctly, fundamental to being able to do everything else in this unit. Okay, you've got tons of naming sheets in your note or in the Google Classroom, okay, in the worksheet package, and I posted the keys for those way back when we were doing them, so you can always just pick a few at random to practice over the weekend. Okay.
And we're allowed our periodic table.
Yes, you will have your periodic table. I will check your periodic table before you write the test, just to make sure you haven't written any notes to self on it. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you were thinking that was going to work, it's not going to work. Okay, not that I think any of you would do that, but in case you have written some stuff just to yourself, I will have spares, okay, that I can loan out that day.
I put the formula for, what was it?
Oh yeah, the mole equation's on the test. If you wrote that on your, yeah. I'm more like if you wrote down the rules for doing something. Those you're supposed to know, okay? Yeah, that's what I would be worried about. Or like you wrote the prefixes, I don't care, that's fine. Okay, yeah, the prefixes, you wrote them on the periodic table. Okay, I'm just worried that you transcribed your entire notes package onto the back of your periodic table so you could use that. That's what I'm concerned. All right, so obviously that's pretty important, okay? Don't forget Roman numerals, special elements. If people make a mistake, that's where they make it. I did make a point of saying that on your reactions assignment, okay? And we'll go over a few of the questions from there as well. Those were the stingers, okay, on the reaction assignment, even though I mentioned that, okay? They were the stingers on there. All right, and then after that, we talked about properties of compounds. That's lesson 4 in your notes package. Okay, what are the properties of ionic compounds? What are the properties of molecular compounds? Solutions conduct electricity or they don't. Okay, solids at room temperature. It could be solids, liquids, or gases. You just know those kind of things, again, for a multiple choice kind of question where maybe I'm giving you the properties of a compound and you need to come up with its identity based on that. Okay, and it would be one that would be obvious, but okay, knowing how to do that, know the properties of acids and bases and things of that nature. Okay, and then solubility, as I was saying at the beginning.
Should we look over our labs and stuff, or should we focus more on those?
I was just going to get to that actually, but yes, you should look at your labs, especially the reactions lab. I will ask you to do a lot of the same things on the written response part as I asked you to do in the analysis. So being able to write reactions and being able to figure out what things are soluble and what things are not, right? And so that's part of solubility here as well. Make sure that you can use that solubility chart. Okay? Very easy for me to make up a multiple choice question that says, here's a double replacement reaction, and tell me which, if any, of the products are soluble. And you would have to figure it out. Okay? I'm not going to waste a written response question on that, but certainly I could have a multiple choice item, and there's me testing your ability to use the solubility chart. Okay, terminology is important, not because I'm going to have questions that go, what's the definition of this word? Because I'm not, but I'm going to use those words when I'm giving you a question. If you don't know what precipitate means, you're not going to get a question that has the word precipitate in it, because you're not going to know what it is. Okay, so make sure you know your terminology. Okay, use the chart, so we just talked about that. All right, polar nature of water. Right, and as I said at the beginning, there's going to be a written response question about the polar nature of water. You need to be able to explain to me what it means to be a polar molecule, okay, what that looks like, what are some of the behaviors of a polar molecule, okay, how does that impact or how is it used by living things? The example we had in class was a tree transporting water, right? So make sure you're going over that. That's a 4-mark question, but it's pretty much recall, okay, 4 or 5 marks, and it's just, you have to remember it. Okay? And that was lesson 7. Okay, lesson 7 is the solubility and polar nature of water lesson. Okay, so what is a polar molecule? Okay, no cohesion and adhesion. Those are the behaviors of a polar molecule. Okay, know the difference, right? They're kind of the same. They both involve hydrogen bonding. Okay, but they hydrogen bond to different things. And then real world example, like the tree, okay, that we were talking about. That's important. Okay, should you use the term hydrogen bond when you're explaining this? Yeah, that's better than sticks together. Okay, it's just a higher quality answer when it comes down to it. Okay, then reactions. There's a star beside reactions. If there is one thing worth more marks than anything else on this test, by a long shot, it's reactions. There are multiple choice questions about reactions, and there are written response questions about reactions. They're everywhere. Okay? Know the types. The multiple choice would be mostly about types. Here's a reaction. Is it an A, double replacements, B, synthesis, okay, that kind of thing. Okay, and then obviously predicting the products, writing them out, balancing them. Okay, first written response item is 7 reactions that have to be balanced. Okay. By the way, if you haven't noticed, I have no problem telling you what I'm going to test on the test. Okay, telling you. Okay. I want you to study those things so you can demonstrate to me you know those skills. The test should not be a guessing game. Okay, you should know what I want to know. Okay, and then lastly, Bold equation. And so there's 4 types. Okay, we've gone over those 4 types every day this week, so there won't be any surprises. There are all 4 types. Okay, I ended up going with all 4 on the unit exam. Okay, because it only took me 19 minutes to make the key, so I kept all 4. All right. So make sure you can do those. Make sure that you show your work. Change color, I want it to go away. Okay, and then last thing is scientific method. Okay, so there's going to be a few questions about like variables. Okay, understanding variables and the different kinds. So I could have a question where I describe an experiment. And then the question is, in this experiment, what is the manipulated variable? A, B, C, or D. Okay? Or what's the responding variable? Or what things would you want to control in this? Okay? Something like that. So there's going to be a scientific method type of question where you have to identify variables. That's going to be multiple choice. In fact, I think there's 2 of them. Okay? All right, that's what's on there. When it's kind of set up like that, it doesn't seem like very much. Okay? That said, okay, I'm telling you what's on it. You know what to study. Expect that the questions will be challenging. Okay? I'm not picking the easiest ones, but I'm also not picking the hardest ones. Okay? My idea about tests is that a test is not the place for me to give you the hardest question I can think of. Okay? I want to know, can you demonstrate the skills, knowledge, etc., that I've taught you on this test to a reasonable degree? Not, can you figure out something I kind of never indirectly even taught you, but figure you could probably figure out and show me. That's not really fair. Okay? Not everyone agrees with me. I like to think of them as wrong. Okay? But I'm not going to think of the hardest thing and put it on the test. Okay? But I am going to put some on there that will test you. Okay? They'll be challenging but fair. Okay? So when you're doing the balancing ones, there'll be a few that are pretty straightforward, and there'll be a couple that are tougher. Okay? I mean, at some point you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay? And that's what will happen in there. Okay. So let's talk about numbers here. Okay, so there are 33 multiple choice questions. Right, and we've already talked about what kind of things they're going to test. Naming, reaction types, atomic models, scientific method, properties of compounds, terminology, solubility, okay, that kind of stuff. That's what's going to be in there. Okay. So those 33 multiple choice questions should go fairly quickly. Okay. I mean, once you read it, you should really know the answer probably within 5 or 10 seconds. Okay. So those 33 questions, I would think, you know, shouldn't take you probably more than about 15 minutes. Okay, you really should be able to do about 2 of them a minute, maybe more. Okay, if you know your stuff well. Now, the written response is where the big marks are. Okay, so the written response has, 6 questions for 51 marks. 6 questions, and there's 51 marks in those 6 questions. Now that means some of them have like A, B, C, D. Okay, like the balancing question, the first question is balancing, and it's 7 reactions, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? H. I can't, anyway, okay, you know, we get that. So there's gonna be 7 marks for question number 1, okay? And then you're gonna have, you know, a question on writing a reaction up. Well, that could be 3 or 4 marks, and maybe there's 2 of them, so there's 6 or 8 marks. Then there's predicting the products of a reaction. Each one of those would be worth 3 or 4 marks. Then you got your mole equation calculations. You got a 4-mark question, a 4-mark question, a 5-mark question. Okay, the marks add up pretty quickly. Right? So make sure that you're showing all of your work. That's the big thing. Okay, for the mole equation calculations, show all of your work. When you're writing out your reactions, take your time. Check the periodic table. Okay, don't just assume you know. Oh yeah, that's not special. Double check. Okay, only takes a couple of seconds to double check it. Okay, totally worth your time to do that. So yeah, make sure you're doing that, taking your time on the written response. My suggestion, you don't have to do this, it's just a suggestion, is to do the written response part first. It is worth 51 marks out of the 84. Okay, so it's definitely the bigger chunk, and it is also more demanding on your time because you actually have to write stuff. Okay, you're showing skills, you're doing work. Okay, whereas the multiple choice, if you were to get a little bit rushed, it's easier to rush a 1-mark multiple choice question than a 5-mark mole equation calculation. Okay, I would rather be looking at 5 multiple choice questions at the end of the exam when I have 30 seconds left than a 5-mark mole equation calculation at the end of the test when I have 30 seconds left. Okay, if worst came to worst, at least I can just fill in some bubbles. Okay, on the multiple choice, I can't fake the mole equation calculation. And it's better to have the multiple choice at the end. Okay, do it last. That's just my suggestion. If you're more comfortable doing it the other way, okay, do it the other way. Other suggestion, this is just a test taking thing. I always read through the test first when I'm taking a test, and I mark which questions I'm gonna do first. Do you have to do the test in order? Everyone, like, we all say that, everyone shakes their head, no I don't, but then we break down and we go, oh, numbers are important, then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Don't do that. If you're really good at mole equation calculations, do them first. Okay? I always do the question I'm most confident in first, because then I feel good. Yeah, okay, I got some confidence now going into maybe something I'm not as good at. Okay, but I just rocked these mole equation calculations, so now I'm going to go right on over to this question on solubility where I have to write something down. You know, I have to make a sentence or whatever. That's not my strong suit. Okay, so don't have to do it in order. Do what you're best at first. Get those ones done, right? I mean, if you ever got pressed for time, the last thing you want to be looking at the end is, oh crap, I really could have done well on that question, then I left it till the end when I was done. Okay, do the ones you're good at first. Simple things. Okay, last simple thing. I will let you start early. I can't let you write late, obviously, because that goes into break and my physics 20s will be coming in. So I will let you start the test at, let's say 12, let's say 12:05. I'll give you an extra 15 minutes. Okay, sorry, for you guys, not 12:05. I was thinking period 3. Okay, I will let you guys start at, let's say 8:20. Okay, now if you don't really take the bus and you can't be here then, maybe see if you can get a ride Wednesday morning and get here a little bit earlier. Okay, but yeah, I'll give you that extra 15 minutes. I don't think you'll need it, but I'll give it to you. Okay, on that note, there is a time frame for this test, unless you have an allocation for extra time through learning support, and you know that if you do. Okay, you have the class period to write it plus that extra time I'm going to give you. Okay, beyond that, you have to get it done in a certain time frame. All right, questions from you guys?
There's the extra time for ELL students too.
Oh, if you're ELL, then I'll make arrangements for you to be able to write with even more. Okay. And if you have the thing for the voice the text to voice, I've already recorded myself reading the test, so you have to listen to me, but I do a better job reading chemistry stuff than Google does. Google does not do a good job of reading chemical equations. It's very confused. All right. Anything else from you guys? Okay. Okay, so expect obviously on your unit exam, you're going to see reactions just like what was on your reactions assignment. So it'll be somewhere you're just writing, somewhere you're predicting, somewhere you're just balancing. Okay, that's the whole purpose of that. But you guys did really well on that as a class, so that bodes well for you on those questions on the exam. Okay, don't get cocky. Okay, you did well on the assignment, that's good, that bodes well, but it doesn't mean you should just go, yeah, I know this stuff, I'm not studying. Other little tips for exam day. Okay, these are simple things, but people don't do them. Get a good night's sleep. You should study a little bit each day. You should not pull an all-nighter. Okay, do not be studying this stuff until 2 in the morning. Right, your brain will be tired when you come in to write your test, and that's not a good condition for it. So get a good night's sleep. You're better off to get a good night's sleep than to try and study more that night. Get a good breakfast before you come. Your brain needs to be well fed and well hydrated. Okay? So black coffee and cigarettes is not a breakfast of champions before a test. Okay, so make sure that you have a good breakfast coming in. Okay, if you want to have something to snack on during the test, I'm totally okay with that. Okay, food or drink during a test, no problem. Just don't spill it on the test. Okay, but yeah, you totally can have that during a test. In fact, I encourage it. Okay, it's always good to have a little snack and feed the brain something that can get you some quick blood sugar. Okay, unless you're diabetic, then don't do it. But, and before the test, I see people do this all the time. I come here and people are cramming like crazy in here in the 20 minutes before the test starts. Don't do that. That is one of the worst things you can do from a functioning of the brain and short-term memory perspective. When you cram like that, you are putting anything you cram into your short-term memory. How long does short-term memory last? 5, maybe 10 minutes, which means once you have to stop and we do O Canada and the gospel reading, and I give you the instructions for the test, your short-term memory will be clear. How will you feel? You ever have that sensation where you're just blank? That's why. Okay, that's what you've done. Okay, you've crammed a bunch of stuff into short-term memory and you were all feeling really, really good about it, and then your short-term memory went, time to reset. I don't remember anything. Okay, and then you panic, and then you spend the next 5 or 10 minutes of the exam recovering from the panic, and you lose 5 or 10 minutes of effective exam writing time. Okay, so whenever I see people doing that, I like come over and I grab their books and I read them. Okay, don't do that. It's one of the worst things you can do. It gets your adrenaline up, it gets you anxious. That's not the way you want to start a test. Okay, so when you come to school in the morning, know that you are already prepared. And there is nothing you can accomplish in that last 20 minutes that will really help you. Okay? Just relax, talk to your friends. Okay? Do whatever relaxes you. Listen to some music, watch a funny video on YouTube, whatever. Okay? Do what relaxes you before the test. Come in feeling relaxed and confident as opposed to anxious. Okay? The other thing is, don't be scared. Okay? In the end, this is a unit exam. It is not the thing that decides your life. Okay? People put way too much weight on a single unit exam. Okay? It's your first high school unit exam. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be anxious. Those are actually healthy a little bit. Okay? Your body can deal with those. A little adrenaline gets going. That's okay. Fear is bad. Okay? If you come in here afraid and shaking, that's not a good mindset. Okay? Remember, it's just a test. You got 3 more. Okay? If this one doesn't go well, you got 3 more in this class. Okay? It won't be the end of the world if it doesn't go as well as you had hoped. Okay? The sun will come up the next day. Okay? And that's what you have to know. Now, I'm not saying just come in here laissez-faire and go, I want you to study, but it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just understand it isn't the end of the world. Okay? Any more questions from you guys? Anything you want me to go over or cover a little bit more? So, read over those couple of things in your notes, okay? Solubility, properties of compounds, structure of the atom, okay? And practice your skills on those questions.
You mentioned stopping mistakes when going over the reactions. Like, what are some examples of those?
Like forgetting to swap and drop something, or getting a prefix wrong. Like, I think the biggest one that I remember was penta being 4, or penta being 6, and penta is 5. Right? So that what I would qualify as a silly mistake. Right? An understanding mistake would be, I don't know, I forgot the thing about tin. Right? I don't know what the charge is. I use the most common one. That's an understanding thing as opposed to a silly mistake. A silly mistake is I rushed. I didn't look at my chart. I didn't look at my periodic table. Right? Putting down S for sodium. Okay? That's a silly mistake. Not an understanding mistake. Okay. Okay, so you got a few minutes left here, guys. We want to go through that review package a little bit. Okay, probably for another few minutes before we start packing up or anything like that. Okay, let's make good use of the time that we have here.